I had a request of how would Sonny Liston do in the modern age of giant heavyweights, and Sonny Liston is one of my favourite boxers from the older eras. I've got a couple of books by him. If any of you are interested in reading a Sonny Liston book, the best one is called Sonny Liston: The Real Story Behind the Ali Liston Fights, and it's written by Paul Gallagher. There are Sonny Liston and more Sonny Liston books out there, but they're a bit boring, a bit too factual. This one's a bit more exciting and entertaining. It's by far the best of the bunch of books about Liston. Now, why do I think he was underrated? Well, a lot of people, well, maybe not a lot of people, but there'll be some people anyway that'll look back at Sonny Liston and think to themselves, yeah, he won the belt, he had one title defence, knocked out Floyd Patterson in style, and then he went on and got outboxed by Ali, and he's just part of the Muhammad Ali story. Now, that's not true at all. Now, while he only did win that belt a short time before losing to Muhammad Ali, he was viewed as the number one dangerous heavyweight of the time, as the best heavyweight actually, a couple of years before he actually won it. The reason is Floyd Patterson was actually not fighting some of the best heavyweights around at that time. Chisora, Fowley, Eddie Macken, Cleveland Williams, and Sonny Liston went out there. He beat the best guys, and he deserved. He really fought hard to get that world title shot against Floyd Patterson. I mean, Customanto was making him jump through as many hoops as possible to get that shot with Floyd Patterson, and he eventually got it. And just as everyone expected, he knocked him out early, and he flattened him in the second fight as well. And people forget this now, but a lot of the experts at the time thought that Sonny Liston was going to dominate easily for the next decade of the sport. So you can imagine the surprise when Muhammad Ali completely outboxed him in the first fight. That's why Muhammad Ali gets the credit that he actually deserves for that fight. It's because people viewed Sonny Liston as such a dominant heavyweight. Now, before I get into how would he do in the modern times, I just want to read a bit from the book about Sonny Liston. Liston said he never tried for an early knockout, but that he hit whenever the opportunity presented itself. Sonny always said that no fighter hit harder than he did, and many of the greatest heavyweights confirmed his belief. Ali said Liston could have banged a hole in Fort Knox if he wanted to. I said he was ugly and he couldn't dance, but I never said he couldn't punch. It frightened me, just knowing how hard he hit, Muhammad admitted years after the two fought. Foreman was only 19 when he first sparred Sonny Liston in 1968, and was in awe of the old man's punching power. He was the only fighter who ever stopped me consistently in my tracks with one punch, backed me up like a sports car, said Foreman. Lewis said Liston punched harder than anyone had ever seen. He's a strong man. I'm glad he wasn't around when I was fighting, added Joe Lewis. Joe's manager, Julian Black, said, while his fighting used to jar an opponent with one hand and knock him out with the other, Sonny could flatten you with either hand. In terms of sheer punching power, Liston had no equal. He was super strong, nobody was like him, said longtime promoter Don Carling. Lewis claims Sonny was the strongest man he'd ever seen. Newsweek went Joe one better by saying Liston might be the strongest man in the world. Liston's the most powerful heavyweight I've ever seen, said veteran boxer referee Bernie Wesman, who has worked 3 times on Sonny's early knockouts. He's a weightlifter with finesse, and you can't hurt him. When I grabbed his arm to break a clinch, it was like grabbing a beast. Foreman was bigger than Liston and many years his junior, but he couldn't match the old man's strength. After doing road work in Las Vegas in the late 1960s, referee Davy Pearl put a wheelbarrow at the bottom of a Raven and filled it with rocks. Sonny moved it up and back, down 3 times, while George could only move it up once. I'm telling you something, Pearl said. When it came to strength, Foreman was a kindergarten kid compared to Sonny, a kindergarten kid. Now, sounds amazingly impressive, and it is amazingly impressive. Obviously, Sonny Liston impressed a lot of people back then. Of course, he was extremely strong, probably extremely strong for a person his size, even though he was viewed as a big guy at that time. Obviously, when they write books, they try and exaggerate things, and if they didn't really exaggerate things in books, it wouldn't be very entertaining to read. So it's good in that way. But the thing people need to remember with Sonny Liston is, he was viewed as a giant heavyweight at that time. 6'1", 215 pounds. He was a giant of a man. But that wouldn't be the case today. I mean, I'm going to be brutally honest with you. I mean, he's tiny for a heavyweight today at 6'1", 215 pounds. I mean, that's a small heavyweight. And although Sonny Liston is a natural heavyweight, he would still be small to the day. I mean, Sonny Liston did start his career at 200 pounds, so he is a natural heavyweight. Now, the thing that can make up for his lack in size is ridiculous reach. I mean, he's got broad shoulders, he's got long arms. I mean, an 84-inch reach does make up for a lot. I mean, that's a longer reach than some of the giants of today. Vitali Klitschko, Wladimir Klitschko, Whack, Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua. Just to name some off the top of the head, it's the same reach that Lennox Lewis had, basically. So it does make up for his height quite a lot. The same way as Bryant Jennings makes up a lot of his height by having a massive 84-inch reach as well. But just Bryant Jennings is a few inches taller, which is a significant difference. I know I'm just talking about dimensions here, but when you're dominating the division for being so big, it's obviously going to affect you when you're not when you're pretty much the smallest guy in the ring. I mean, a lot of the guys that are 215 pounds and that have been successful have been guys like David Haye, and David Haye does have a lot better footwork than Sonny Liston. He's a lot faster on his feet than Sonny Liston. He's got faster hands than Sonny Liston. Does he punch as hard as Sonny Liston? I don't know. But he's got better reflexes as well than Sonny Liston. He moves better. He's more fluid. I'm not saying Sonny Liston's not skilled in a way. He is highly skilled. And Sultan and Bragimov, Sultan and Bragimov's a bit bigger than Sonny Liston. But Sultan and Bragimov got really far in the heavyweight division just by having incredible skills. I mean, he gave Wladimir Klitschko a tough fight for 12 rounds. So, I mean, there's a lot of heavyweights. I mean, if you put Sonny Liston in with someone like Charles Martin, do I think he could beat Charles Martin? Yeah, I think he could beat Charles Martin. I really do. I think he's a more skilled boxer. I think Sonny Liston's more confident. I think Sonny Liston probably does punch harder. I mean, Sonny Liston went in there with a guy called Gerhard Zerch. I think it was from Switzerland. He's 6'5" with a 80-inch reach, 226 pounds. So it not perfectly resembles Charles Martin, but he kind of retired with the same kind of record that I guess Charles Martin's going to retire with, because Charles Martin's not very impressive. Gerhard Zerch did box better than Charles Martin, and Sonny Liston stopped him in the 7th round. So if you're asking, is there a possibility for Sonny Liston to actually get himself on a belt? Yeah, I think there's a possibility Sonny Liston can get himself on a belt if he gets set up in the same way Charles Martin did. But against the top 10 heavyweights, I mean, I seriously doubt it. I mean, top 50, yeah, sure, top 50. He's got that big 84-inch reach. He punches hard. He's confident, and he does have a good record. I mean, 50 wins, 4 losses, and when you strip out all the cruiserweights out of his record, he's got a record of 24 wins, 2 losses. And what you got to remember with Sonny Liston as well is Sonny Liston's career spanned out until he was 40 years old. So you weren't always getting the best of him throughout that record there. I could read through a list of people, that are about the size of some of the smaller heavyweights that would be around today that Sonny Liston beat. Cleveland Williams, 6'3", 80-inch reach, 216 pounds. Sonny Liston fought him twice, knocked him out in the 2nd round, the 2nd fight. Ponce de Leon, 215 pounds. Sonny Liston beat him on points in the over 4 rounds. Gerard Zerch, just like I said, 6'5", 79-inch reach, 226 pounds. Sonny Liston stopped him in the 7th round. Dave Bailey, 6'2", 215 pounds. Henry Clark, Chuck Wepner. Chuck Wepner, 6'5", not very good heavyweight though, 228 pounds. And well, Liston fought him when he was 40 as well, so you've really got to give him credit for that. So Sonny Liston can compete against bigger guys. He can beat guys that outsize him. And the two really good boxers he did fight that were over, like at modern size, over 215 pounds, he knocked them out both. So he does prove that he does have power. I mean, it's not a myth that he's just got power at a lower level. He did seem to display power even against bigger guys. I mean, you can never tell really how someone is going to do in the modern age, but you put them in with tall guys, outsize them with power. I mean, if you look at Muhammad Ali, how Muhammad Ali beat Sonny Liston with the movement and with their size as well, with having the extra height, just moving around, being fluid, staying out of reach of Sonny Liston, peppering him with punches, setting himself up for good counter combinations. You also got to look at what Tyson Fury did to Wladimir Klitschko. I mean, Tyson Fury obviously displays a lot of good footwork as well, and compared to Muhammad Ali, he's got a ridiculous reach. I think he's got a 7-inch reach advantage over Muhammad Ali, and he's got a 6-inch height advantage over Muhammad Ali as well. So if Muhammad Ali, I may get criticised for this, if Muhammad Ali can do that to Sonny Liston, then Tyson, with having a good footwork, with having the massive extra reach and height over him, he can do it too. And Sonny Liston did get stopped during his career. I mean, there's a chapter in the book about him having a concrete chin, but he did get stopped, and he got stopped by a cruiserweight as well. So it's not like he can't be knocked out, and there's a lot of power punchers in the division today with the increased size as well. If you're fighting someone like Klitschko, who's staying away from you all the time with his good footwork and his height and reach, eventually he's going to set himself up with a good punch, and if a cruiserweight can knock you out, Wladimir Klitschko can knock you out as well. I mean, it's just the fact that Sonny Liston was a big guy for his time. Just like I said, he outsized 82% of the opponents he fought, and if he fought today, about 95% of the time he's going to be outsized, and he's going to be at a disadvantage. I mean, that really is a disadvantage. So do I think, could he get in the top 50? Yeah, I think he could get in the top 50. Do I think he could get in the top 10? Possibly briefly, maybe getting the same way as Charles Martin did. But that's honestly it. And I'm not trying to take any away from Sonny Liston here. Sonny Liston was great for his time. It's just that heavyweight boxing has just evolved so much since the 1950s and 1960s. And it does have an effect against smaller boxers around at that time. The one thing I could say for Sonny Liston, though, is if he was fighting around at this time today, he would have access to better nutrition, he would have access to supplements like protein, creatine, some of the more cynical people will probably say steroids, and he'd also have access to weight training and plyometrics and all these different kinds of training that he didn't have access to at that time. So, is there a possibility Sonny Liston could do a lot better than what I'm actually saying? Yes, there is. There's a possibility Sonny Liston could go out there, maybe bulk himself up a lot more, be a lot stronger, try and use superior skill like Sultan and Bragimov, or maybe he can maybe change his style and be a bit more like a pressure fighter like Derreck Chisora and Alexander Povetkin. Alexander Povetkin is not actually that much bigger than him. He's about closer 6'2" and closer to 230 pounds. Of course, that would make Alexander Povetkin a complete giant for Sonny Liston's era. But Sonny Liston could bulk up as well, and maybe he could be in the top 10, maybe he could be in the top 20. I mean, that's another possibility of looking at it. But from Sonny Liston, if you're going to drag him out of the 1950s and bring him into this era, he's going to really struggle, and that's just my honest opinion. That's all I've really got to say. This has been a really long video. I hope the person that wanted me to do this video has actually watched it all now. That's all I've got to say.